Alright, here it is. I made a few Instagram stories about this car and got an overwhelming response, which I did not expect. So here we go, Project TE72. I felt like I needed a new daily driver since I was burning about $60 a week in gas in my Tacoma. So, I mean, just personally, as I got older, I had an affinity for station wagons. I wanted something more fuel efficient, and I wanted something I could still haul parts in. So, definitely station wagon fit the bill. Alright, so 1982 Toyota Corolla station wagon. Let's check out what's under the hood. 3TC engine. 82 I found out was the split year, so after this they got a 4AC plus rack and pinion steering. So you can see the steering box right there. This one has a Weber 3236 installed. So I'm not quite sure what I want to do with this car yet. I know I do need a daily driver parts hauler, so I've been having a lot of fun just driving this thing around for the past couple weeks. But I'll show you guys like some maintenance items and what I've done so far. So some labor, the blend door arm is broken, which I'll cut to right now. So yeah, in that up you can see, oh, I need to figure out something for that. And again, that's the blend door, so either your face, defrost, or the feet. This car is a non-AC car. It did not come with a tach either. Right now this tach with key on, it illuminates, so I want to change that so it only illuminates with the headlights on. There's some warning lights back here, so I actually want to move the tach over to here where this empty stuff is. I don't know why there's block off panels. Something must have went here. The horns don't work. This is California, so horns are like a safety item for me. So I want to put some loud ass hella horns like the Corolla has and get these horns to get the OEM horns at least to work. Let's see, tall shifter from T3. This has been really cool. I actually like, I typically don't like short shifters for T50, but I've noticed when you've like raised the shift point, the throw gets longer too, which I'm okay being T3's short shifter being the shortest on the market right now. And then this is actually my shift knob, the original shift knob from my Corolla, so it's cool to use this guy again. Check out some of this. Glove box, Madonna tape. This head unit only has a tape, so I want something with an aux jack and Bluetooth. The truck has spoiled me on the Bluetooth thing, so I really want Bluetooth for my phone so I can listen to the Autohaus podcast. Yeah, the interior is not too terrible. I'd really like carpet at some point. I know from my other old schools that carpet will make your old school feel like a luxury car again. Oh. As you can see, this space is pretty cavernous. It looks like the seats fold flat. I haven't figured that out yet, but oh, never mind, I just figured it out. Yeah. So yeah, this car does have a few quirks that I want to take care of before I make this officially my daily driver. So the key I got with this car is super worn out. To start the car, you gotta jiggle it and then jiggle it and pray until you can go into the run position. So I brought the locksmith one of the, I think he told me the passenger lock cylinder, and I had 3 brand new keys cut. On OEM lock cylinders, sometimes there's a code on the barrel and they can cut it by the code. Unfortunately, some of these lock cylinders are too worn out. So if you look at this, look, I can get it into lock, but now I can't unlock anymore. I gotta get the worn out key to lock it. Same thing, no matter how much I jiggle this guy, I won't be able to start the car with these new cut keys. So some of this stuff isn't exact. Like today's project, this breather line's actually, if you see that, the hose end's too fat for the other side. So I'm going to get an adapter from this hose to that, and I'll show you guys how to find out what hose fitting size you have. So far, here's where I'm at. I'd recommend you guys do this too. I usually get a scratch piece of paper and get the date and the mileage of when I did stuff on the car. So I have a record for myself, and then like my memory is not the best, so I need to write everything down. But here's where we're at. So this thing has a new radiator cap, trans and diff service with Amsoil severe gear, new thermostat in this guide. Good thing those bolts didn't break off. Coolant flush along with the thermostat, so drain the radiator, and the block drain is on that side of the block. New clutch master cylinder, clutch slave. I use the Technofit stainless clutch line for a AE86 from Battle Garage, and I'll put that link below. I topped off the gear oil in the steering box. New brake pedal pad, and here's what we're gonna try to do today. Oh, more parts. Let's unbox this stuff. Alright, so I got a pitman arm. This guy goes on the steering box, and then this is the idler arm. These ball joints are worn on the car right now, so I'm just gonna replace these 2 entire assemblies. I got a new ignition lock cylinder, and then 2 more locks. So I'm not gonna go through the headache of having a ignition and a door key. I want all the keys to work the same on this car. Alright, so I found out these fitting sizes are a little bit wonky, but I'll show you basically how you do it. This will work metric or standard. Here's a 5/8 wrench, and if we put the wrench here, this thing's just about 5/8. Same thing with the other side, 11/16. This thing's just about 11/16. The fit's a little bit sloppy because it's probably in metric, but we'll be able to find some standard size hose that fits. So here's another way to do it. Grab out your calipers. Where are we at? 16 and 13. So 13.7. I'll go Google up like a table from metric to standard size, and I'll find the closest fractional sizes to find out what size hose that I need. Alright, so remember our numbers before, 16 mil and then 13.7 mil. So I have this chart pulled up on my phone. If we look, 15.8 is pretty close to 16 mil, and then 5/8 is a really common hose size, so I'm gonna try for a 5/8 fitting. 13.8 is a weirdo size. I mean the next, so I'll typically look for what are the common hose sizes. So 1/2 inch is our next most common size. So I got a 1/2 inch hose. And yeah, that's about right. This fitting has barbs on it, and then rubber hose typically has some stretch to it, so a 1/2 inch to 5/8 adapter, that's probably what I'm looking for. So alright, back from the hardware store. I found this 90-degree 3/4 by 1/2 inch. Apparently 1/2 by 5/8 is pretty uncommon, so this guy should work. Yeah, so I think I'll just put it like that. That matches up pretty well. The 1/2 is a little bit smaller, but I'll just put a hose clamp on that side. So I'm also gonna dump in a bottle of this Amsoil PI. This stuff's really good as a cleaner. It just goes directly in the gas tank, and it'll clean the fuel system, the intake valves. This stuff's safe for direct injection also, so I used to run this in my FRS as well. Alright, and there it is. Got a Euro style clamp I had left over, and clamped that guy using my fuck-em pliers. Cool, got my service manual out here with my torque specs. So I took this guy off, the center link, and then the 2 tie rods. I did that because that's the only way you're going to be able to reach this, the idler ball joint, and then also the pitman arm ball joint. And so the reason we're replacing these 2 guys is there was slop in the steering, and if you grab one of the wheels at 3 and 9 and shake it back and forth, you could feel there was slop somewhere in this steering system. So with someone shaking the wheel and with me looking under the car, I could see these guys, the ball joints for the pitman and the idler. Yeah, you can check out this guy. Feels like a bunch of sand in there, a bunch of slop and a bunch of grit. And then same thing, this guy has a little bit of slop in the joint also. Got the pitman arm and got the idler arm in. Make sure to put the cotter pins in there. Look up the torque spec, especially for that guy. One thing I learned recently, right here on the ball joint, this tapered portion, light coat of anti-seize right here. If you notice the wheel straight, but the steering wheel is upside down, so yeah, before you even start this, I should have made sure the steering wheel was locked in place and centered. But I guess a good side effect, I realized the horns work in this position, but if we go flip the steering wheel right, the horns don't work. So this actually works out because this tells me that, you know, my power and grounds are good, the fuse is good, the horn is good, this circuit's good. It's just probably something in between the steering wheel and the column. So I'll take this steering wheel off and let's see what's going on back there. And yeah, I'll take the steering wheel off and flip it the right way. This is an old school, so I'm okay doing that, but if you have a modern car, there's a clock spring in here, so this would not be okay. You'd have to mess with the clock spring. Alright, got the steering wheel off. You see the paint mark where I marked the straight up and down position. And then always look in your service manual, what's the torque for these, because it's actually not that much. On this car it's only 25 foot-pounds, so don't gorilla crank down on this thing. So what's up with the horn? So on these older vehicles there's actually a plunger right here and a friction portion. You can see how shiny that thing is, so it's probably worn down a lot over the years. The fix for this is probably to replace this assembly, which it may not be possible considering a lot of these parts are discontinued. You can see the green oxidation. This is where that plunger rides on. You can see some spots are shiny, some are not, so I'm gonna clean all this up, get some light sandpaper and some alcohol, and try to function test the horn. Maybe we can get it to work. The other way, these 3 screws, I could put washers under all 3 and then try to lift this guy up in the interim instead of replacing parts. So, alright, so I just grabbed some 400 grit sandpaper and went around this. You see, this is all shiny again, so possibly this was covered in oxidation, preventing good electrical contact. Alright, so back in the day in my 76 Celica, I had a similar issue. We had an electrical problem between in the steering column, and it ended up that there was like a piece of garbage or like some grit that was stuck on this guy, preventing electrical contact at all times, and it made like a cap around this guy. So I pulled off that garbage and the horn worked. So just some tips for you guys. Get your horn working. It's really nice when like everything on the car works. Alright, so my steering wheel's back on. Horn is ground side switched. So what that means is when you press the horn button, you connect the circuit to ground to make the horns work. So this one pin should be power to horn, and then the steering column should be ground. So the horn should work, but it doesn't. But if we go 180 again, well, it worked earlier when I went 180, but so both that plunger and then the ring on the back of the steering wheel is probably worn. So I'm going to, in lieu of buying parts, space up take these 3 bolts out and space this up. The other way I've seen people have found like a cap for this guy and just put a cap over it to take up some of the clearance, and that has worked for them. I noticed when I unbolted this guy off, there was that green oxidation stuff on the other side, so I got that 400 paper and I cleaned up the other side. If this is full of oxidation, this could be a point of high resistance too, so yeah, clean up this guy too. So cool. So I got in my stash of washers and spaced out those 3 Phillips screws to space up that whole ring. Let's check it out. Great. So horn works. At some other point, I want to get those like 110 decibel hella horns in here, because again, in California, all the nonsense and distracted driving, getting your horn working and getting the loud horns is probably like a needed safety item at this point. Alright, so pretty funny problem, or a lot of bad problems. So before you take this column apart, there's a tray right here under 2 bolts that you need to take off. Don't break it like I just did. And then taking the ignition cylinder out, you need to turn the key to the accessory position, and then you'll see right there on the side there's that little button you push in. This will slide out. So again, this thing's super worn, and get these rekeyed at the locksmith tomorrow. So funny situation, this thing's so worn, I have it stuck in the start position right now and I can't get it to turn back. So alright, 1 week later, we're back. So I ended up not using any of this stuff, the ignition switch and then both of the door lock cylinders. So I wanted to keep 1 key for the whole car, and it ends up this is not gonna work because these lock cylinders and then the ignition switch I bought all take a different style key. So the locksmith recommended to me to bring all my lock cylinders plus the ignition switch and see if they could get rebuilt. So there we go. Yeah, if you're gonna rekey your car, I would recommend bringing all your lock cylinders and your ignition switch to the locksmith, because they told me they had cylinders in stock too. So yeah, pro tip, if you're gonna rekey your car, talk to a locksmith first. Don't be like me and just buy stuff and expect it to work. So some other news, I got the tack where I want it in the center. I'll show you. Key on. There's some warning lights on this side that I wanted. I also wired up the tack illumination. So there's this on a TE, there's this one light right here that illuminates the cigarette lighter. I don't care about that, so I unplugged it and I just have this guy tapped in to the cigarette lighter illumination. Alright, in other news, there's some stuff back there. So one of the front calipers is seized, and instead of wasting money and buying one reman caliper, I'm going to convert this car to all AE86 stuff. So thank you, Jeff Wilson, for selling me this at a good price and delivering it to the shop. Thanks, man. So that concludes part 1 for Project TE72 wagon. I'm sure we'll find a cool nickname for this project, but thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. Merch at cmautohaus.com. Consider supporting us on Patreon so I can make more videos and do more cool stuff for you guys to see. If you have anything that you want me to do to this wagon, or anything in particular you want to see about this guy, let me know in the comments and I may or may not do it. I probably will. Alright, thanks guys. Until next time, part 2.